In this video, I will fully break down these 4 premium animations inside of Davinci Resolve. I broke this down into 4 simple parts, one for each animation. I will go very in depth into the styling, the camera movement, and into my secret techniques, so no matter what editing level you are, this will make you a better editor. On top of that, all the assets and the project file are in the description, so you can recreate it yourself. And if watch until the end, I will show you my secret effects that you can use to make any edit look instantly 10 times better. Let's get into it. Okay, so here are the animations once again that we're going to cover inside of this video. So I'll break down everything that happens inside of the edit page and what every single layer does. And I'm also going to go inside of the fusion page for every single animation and break this down for you. Basically, I have 3 main layers. This layer on top of everything is just a render, which helps me out to play this back smoothly, as you can see right here. Without it, I basically have no FPS. If I turn everything off, the first one is the actual main animation that we have on screen. The same is for the other animation, and I overlay them both on top of the other, and I have this blend effect right over here, so the first animation smoothly blends in into the second animation. The next layer is just a layer of effects, which adds a lot more detail to the actual animation and makes it look better. Here's what the first one looks with this layer of effects, and on top of that I have one more layer of effects, which is just a layer of glow. Also, everything is the same for these other 2 animations over here. This is the other animation with this layer, and this one as well, and with the glow. Okay, so going inside of the first animation, as you can see, we have a lot of nodes right over here, but don't worry because we can break this down into multiple sections. So firstly, we have this character that I created with this nose over here. After that, I have this graph with this text effect. We combine both of them together inside of this merge node. After that, I have 2 circles which go under these elements right over here to add more depth to the image, to make it look a little bit better. After that, we have the camera movement, which is basically how the animation moves, and last but not least, we have a gray background which you put under everything, complete the animation. So let's start with the actual character, how they create. So first we have the head, we have the eyes, we have some transforms for the movement, and we have the body, which we added on top, and we change its position from the merge node. So the head is just a couple of circle gradients merged on top of each other, as you can see right over here. So how they create this cool gradient effect? So everything starts from this. We drag on a circle mask, as you can see right over here, make it a little bit smaller, and after that we drag a background and we add the output of the circle in the blue input of the background. So the background takes the shape of the circle, as you can see on screen, and we change the color of the background to what color we want, which is green in our case. After that, we have one more circle which we're going to invert, make it small again. We're going to soften the edge just like this. After that, I'm going to press shift on my keyboard and drag this on this line, which is going to merge both ellipses together. We have the first ellipse and the second ellipse together, and the background is going to look like this. So in the second ellipse, what we want to do is to change the paint mode from merge to multiply, and it changes just like that, and we have this cool ring effect. So we have a ring into green background. After that, we have this first ellipse that goes into a completely back background, which I merged on top of the other ellipse. And as you can see, I changed the operator from over to under, so it's under the first green ring. I increased the blend a tiny bit to make it a bit more transparent, so we created this cool shadow effect. After that, we have one more ring, which is much more subtle, which goes into a white background, which goes on top again to create this cool whitish effect gradient. After that, we have a polygon with a little bit of border width increase, which goes into a white background, which we merged on top, creating this mouth effect. After that, we have the eyes. So the eyes is basically we have an ellipse which goes into a white background. After that, we have another ellipse which goes into a black background, and we merge this background together to create this cool eye effect. And the first ellipse is actually a keyframe to change its position. So we have a keyframe at the start right over here. After that, it moves 21 frames ahead, and it changes its position, and we have the specific curve on the spline. So it's going to look like this for you. When you keyframe this, you're going to select everything, and you're going to press S on your keyboard, and you're just going to make this a little bit more abrupt, so it looks a bit smoother, just like that. After this, it goes into a transform, which makes it just a tiny bit smaller. Then we have one more transform, which is going to another layer of movement to the entire eye, which is basically the same thing like keyframing the center in 2 positions and smoothing out the graph. And then I have another transform node, which which does this animation right over here. So at the start is like this. Uncheck this and I keyframe the eye size. I go 2 frames forward and increase it 0, just like this. Go 3 frames forward and take it back to 1, and we have this cool effect. Next I have this background, which is just a black background made transparent, and I have 2 merges after, 1 merge for each eye, and I change the position of the eyes using the merge node, so they're both parallel to each other and they both look the same. After that I merge everything on top of head and it looks like this. I have another transform which represents the head movement, which is the exact same thing I did for the eye, and it moves at the same time, I believe, as well. After that I have one more transform, which is where I just change the position of the head. Then I have the body, which I merged on top, and I changed its position from the merge node. The body I basically just created in the same way like I did with the head, but it's a little bit more different. So we have this exact same ring, but it's a little bit lower, as we see right over here, and it's much more softened. It goes into this green background. Then we have this ellipse which goes into a white background, which is not completely white, it's set to gradient and to this position, so it's just a little bit at the top. After that I merge this on top of the green. Then I have the same background which goes into another black background, which I merge on top of this. I change the operator from over to under, so it's beneath it, and I decrease the blend once again. That's how we have the character. After that I have a color corrector node where I just change the hue to the blue color, and at the end I have a filter node which is set from relief to grain, and with these settings over here, so I have this cool grainy effect as you can see right over here. Next I have this graph which we see right here. So here we have this panel. After that we have this graph, and we have these few layers of text. We have a drop shadow under, and we have a fade in animation which makes it fade in just like that. So this specific thing is a preset created by me, which you're not going to find anywhere else, but I did show how to create this fade in animation inside of Davinci Resolve in my previous video. You can go and check it out after you watch this one. So this graph right over here, so if I open this up, you can see there are a lot of nodes, and I do not have time inside of this video to show you everything. So the main principle of this is we have a specific background, then we mask it out with a specific shape, and we layer these shapes on top of each other to get to this result right over here. So everything starts from this transparent background you see right over here, and then we have this background masked by a rectangle. We have this other background masked by a rectangle which is not solid and has a little bit of border to create this cool border effect. After that we have this circle with this text twice, and then we have this button right over here which is just a background and a text inside. Then we have these lines over here which is just background masked by a polygon which is duplicated multiple times with duplicate node, just like that. We've combined everything together and it's going to look like this. Then we have a text node just like that, merged on top, another text node, and these other texts which look like this right over here. This cool graph over here. How did I manage? So I have a background, transparent background once again. I have a background masked by a B-spline which is with a little bit of border width, which goes into a light blue background. We have the exact same thing over here, but it's a little bit more different. So we have the same B-spline, which is completed. Then we have this rectangle over here, which has the paint mode set to multiply. So we set where it stops, as you can see right over here, which goes into another background, which is also the exact same shade of blue, but this time is a gradient instead of a solid color. Merge on top once again. We have a glow node right after it, so it glows a little bit, and we combine this on top. We have these two texts over here, which we combine it on top, and we have these two counter texts, which we also combine and change their position from the merge nodes. So how I created this counter animation right over, it's basically just a text node right over here. We right click on this and click on expression. After that, we want to click this specific line of code, which is going to give the text this property to change its number from one point to another. And we have two of these, both for subscribers and for estimated revenue. We have both of them combined, and we completed the graph. After that, we have a follower text animation. I'm not going to cover how I created this because I covered it in my previous video, which you can go and check it out. After this, we have this group over here, which is just a layer of glow and a drop shadow. We add this on a transparent background once again, and we change its position from it, and then we combine both of them together like this and these positions. And after that, we take all of this and we add it on top of the character right over here, and we change its position and its size to the side of it, just like that. Okay, so moving on, we have these two elements right over here merged under our scene to give it a little bit more depth and to make it look a little bit nicer. So this, if you select everything, this is what it looks without it, and this is what it looks with it. So it just gives this cool glowy effect that just gives the image much more depth. So how they create it, so I have an ellipse with a soft edge which goes into a background, which I set its color to this blue. After that, we merge this on top of another transparent background, and I move the first circle in this specific position right over here, and I also move the second circle in this other position, and I also made it a little bit smaller. Then we have everything and we merge this over our composition, and we change the operator from over to under, so it's not over the character and it's beneath it instead. After that, we have the camera movement. So we have two transforms over here. One of them is a slide, as you can see, and the other one is a zoom out at the end. So if I select both of them inside of the spline, the first transform is a slide, the second one is just a zoom out. I could have done this in just one transform, but I don't do it because if I have multiple animations and multiple kinds of movements, it's going to get very complex very fast if I do everything in just one. So I choose to keep every single movement separately. So the first transform is basically just a slide. So we slightly zoom into the composition. We go to the first frame, we keyframe the center, we go like 40 to 50 frames ahead, then we change the center so the graph ends in the center of the screen. Then we have this spline graph right over here. We select everything and we press S on the keyboard to smoothen out the graph, and we just drag the graph like this. So to create this smooth animation right over here, so it starts slow, it gets faster, and then it goes slow once again. After that, we have a transform, which is basically just two more keyframes, keyframing the size, and it gets smaller and smaller until the end of the video. And we smoothen this out once again, and we create this curve, so it starts getting faster and faster and faster, being the fastest on the last frame of the animation. After that, we have a gray background, which we set it under everything to finally complete the animation, and it's going to look just like this, as you can see right over here. Something very important for this and for every single node inside of this animation. Okay, so something very important about merge nodes is this: we have three inputs, as you can see right over here. One is yellow, one is green, and one is blue. Let's start with the yellow one. If I hover this over, you can see it says background. If I hover over the green one, it says foreground. So background means it's the layer under, foreground is the layer over. So what goes into the yellow is under what goes into the green. And as you can see in the animation, what the gray background is under the rest of the composition right over here. If we change this around, it's going to switch like this, and it's going to switch back if we change it around once again. If we want to switch around very fast, we can just press Ctrl T. And now the blue input. So let's say we drag a mask. This is an ellipse mask. If we put this into the blue input, it's going to mask our composition. So it's going to look like this. One more thing about merge nodes is that the ellipse will only mask what goes inside of the green, just like that. So it's not going to mask the gray background, it's only going to mask this part. If we change them around, yes, it's going to mask the gray background. So now that we have covered the first animation, let's move on to the second one. As you can see, we have 4 different panels which appear on screen, and it subtly slides down on each and every single panel. If you go inside, it's much more simpler than the previous one. This is what we have. So we have this specific panel with a number and a text over it. It goes into a transform, it goes into a fade-in animation once again, it appears, and it goes over a transparent background just like this, and we change its position from the merge node. We do this for each and every single one right over here, for the second, third, and the fourth, and we also have the fifth, but I do not have it turned on because I did not need to use it in this specific animation. Inside of the video, there's another animation which is exactly like this, where he actually mentions the fifth option where I did use it. So one little trick that I want to show you, we have this transform node right over here, which is the exact same for these other ones. If I change something from the first one, it's going to change from the other ones. Why? Because all of these are linked together, and I made this composition in this way because it's very easy to adjust things in case I want to make size adjustments or to just move it a little bit to the left. This way it moves everything at the same time, and I do not have to adjust each and every single thing separately. So how they create this? So you just want to copy this transform, and you want to press Ctrl Shift V, and it's going to paste an instance of that transform. So just like that. So everything that I changed inside of here changes here as well. So now that we have it discovered, we have once again this panel and this camera movement, and after that we have everything. We have a gray background that goes under this composition. Okay, now breaking this down, let's take this aside and let's ungroup this. You want to think of each and every single node as a layer. So this is the first one, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth. Everything adds on top of each other. So at the start we have this rectangle which goes into a gray background. Then I have a light sweep, which is this cool shiny effect on the side, and another light sweep like this. The light sweep is an actual external plugin which you might not have access to it. I will attach a link to the pack in the description, but here's how we can create a very similar thing inside of DaVinci Resolve. So you want to copy and paste this exactly the same. You want to copy and paste this exact rectangle like this, and you want to turn off the solid and to turn up this border width just a little bit, so we have this cool border. Then we add another background node, which we're going to make this shade of blue right over here, and we mask the background with this. Then we add another rectangle inside of this background, just like this. You just select the first rectangle and click on this rectangle mask, and it will automatically add it inside. Then we change the paint mode from merge to multiply once again, so they both multiply just like that, and we turn the angle just like this, and we increase the soft edge, giving it this cool effect. After that we merge both of these together just like this, and it's going to look like this, which is very similar to what we have over here. Getting back, we have these two shiny effects over here. Then the next thing we have is a drop shadow, subtle drop shadow underneath with these settings over here. Then we have a blend effect which gives it a little bit of transparency. So how they create this blend effect over here? So what you want to do, you want to add a background, you want to make it completely transparent and to merge this with what we have before, and we want to make the background go into the yellow input, so it's the background foreground. And from the merge node, you just want to decrease the blend by 1, and you're going to have this cool blend effect. After this I have a text node with the font Monument Extended, which is a great font with the exact shade of blue, and I merge this right over here and I change the position of the text to the left. After that I have one more text like this, and I merge it on top just like this. The font of this text is Europa Grotesque, and this is the font of this text, and each and every single one of these is exactly the same. Besides, I just changed the number and the actual text inside. Everything besides the last one. So if I copy and paste the last one and ungroup this, we have literally the same thing, but we make this gray rectangle be this cool gradient effect. So how they create this cool gradient effect? If I group this is the actual gradient that we're going to use. I'm going to press 1, so we have this over here, and I have the rest of the node graph on the right side. So everything starts at a transparent background, and we have 3 layers of gradients. We have the first blue gradient, then we have another blue gradient which is a little bit lighter, also it's a little bit softer and it's bigger. Then we have one more gradient which is completely white and looks like this. After that we have a blur node to make this even softer. So the first gradient is basically just an ellipse to the side with its angle turned like this. It goes into this blue background. Then the next ellipse is a little bit bigger and it's a little bit softer. The next one is as well as this right over here, and we merge this on top of this. So how do you do this? At the start it's going to look like this for you. So what I did, I changed the position a little bit and I changed the operator from over to A top. So everything that goes into the green input over here will be masked by the yellow one. This is basically the same as if I were to take this and to put it into the blue, and you have exactly the same thing. It goes into light sweep, to light sweep, drop shadow, blend. I have a plugin over here which gives more saturation to the gradient and makes it look a little bit different. I'll also leave a link to that in the description, but you don't have to use it. Then I have the text which I changed it completely white. Then we have everything combined just like this, and we have a fade in animation, so everything appears on screen, and each fade in animation is timed to exactly when he says. So in the video he says the first thing and the first thing appears, then he says the second thing and the second thing appears, and then third and then the fourth. And then we have the camera movement, which is basically a bunch of transforms. Copy and paste it. First we have the position, which is basically just a transform node, and I changed its position so the first card ends up exactly in the center of the screen, just like this. Then we're going to have a slide transition which looks exactly like that. So it moves, I have the center keyframe like this, and it moves across 44 frames down like this, showing up the second card. So how do you create this slide animation? First, you add a transform node like this over here. You go to the first frame, you add a keyframe to the center, and you go 40 frames after, and you move the keyframe like this, and you want both of them to end up in the center of the screen. Now you're going to have this spline graph right over here. You're going to select everything and press S on your keyboard. After that, you're going to press T on your keyboard, and you're going to press on this lock right over here, and you're just going to increase the ease to about 70 to 75, which is going to make the slide much smoother. Then you take everything and you copy and paste it 3 times. You add this over, and then you go to the keyframes tab this time, and you offset each one by a few frames, and then you timed it properly. So this is what you want to have in the end. The first thing appears, then it slides, then the second thing appears, and it slides again, then the third thing appears, and it slides again, and the fourth thing appears. You want to time this out just like this, using the keyframes tab once again. This is what it's going to look like in the spline, and this is what the end result will look like. Now let's move on to the next sequence of animations, which you're going to see right now. So once again, in the edit page, this time you have a fusion composition with just the background inside. Over that is the calendar, which is basically just the calendar and transparent underneath. After that, we have this layer of effects and this layer of glow. The same thing is with this animation as well. We have the background, the circle, the actual composition, and everything we have over. So the first animation, the calendar animation, and how I created it. If you go inside of the fusion page, you can see once again we have a lot of nodes. But don't worry, because this is not as complex as it looks. So everything starts once again from this background, which goes transparent, and after this background you want to think of this as layers. Once again, you have this calendar image, and we have each and every single icon over here, which is moved with the transform nodes right over here. Then we have these other icons, which are basically the exact same thing, but they're in red, and they're also moved in different positions. After that, we have a drop shadow under, and then we have these cool circles to give the image more depth and to make it look good. Then we have the camera movement, which is basically just a transform where I keyframe the size and it smoothly zooms in like this. Then we have another transform, which is a zoom out at the end, like we had with the other 2 animations before. So going to the start, I have this calendar over here, which I generated using ChatGPT, I think, or I copied it from somewhere else, and it's cropped by this rectangle mask over here, so it looks like this. Then we have this group, which is basically, and then I basically have a background over here to just like hide the text under, and then I just replace the text with another text with what I actually want, which is the month of this year, which is July 2020. So this is what we have for this part. Everything starts over here. I have this blue background. Here's the shadow, exact shadow blue if you want to copy it, which is masked by this rectangle. Then I have a text over, all caps, anchored on the left and with the word call. And I have this other text, which is the time of the call, much smaller, have a mosaic blur after, and then I merged on top as well. So I have this cool little composition over here. It's exactly the same thing for on the other side. The only difference is that I changed the color. So instead of being this subtle grayish blue, it's the subtle grayish red. Here's the shade red if you also want to copy it. Then everything goes into a pop-in animation. This is the pop-in animation that I have right over here. I created this using a plugin. This plugin basically just automatically animates everything that I use. I use it very frequently because it's very optimal to use, but if you want to use it to create this manually, this is how you do it. You added a transform node, you add this into the transform and define this in the second viewer. Then you go to the first frame and you keyframe the size to 0. Then you go to frame 30 and you keyframe the size back to 1. Press Ctrl F, center the spline, select everything, you press S on your keyboard, then you make this curve right over here. So it starts fast, it slows down just like this, and you have this cool pop-out animation. And what you want to do, you want to copy and paste this multiple times. You're going to have a lot of squares basically, but because we have the exact same square over here, instead of just having multiple of the same squares, I can just use the exact same square and paste it in the all of the transforms. And with these transforms, what you want to do, you want to go back to the keyframes tab. You want to offset each of them just like this, which is basically what I have right over here, and everything appears randomly just like this. And you want to offset all of this because you're going to create this cool animation where everything just appears one at a time. This is what it's going to look like. After I have the pop-up animation, as you can see right over here, I have a transform node after where I change the size and the position just like this. And I do this for every single one, and I place them randomly just like this. So now I created the first side of the animation, and then what you want to do, you want to create the other side, which is basically the exact same thing, but it's in red. So what I did here differently is that instead of placing everything like this like I did for the blue ones, I placed all of them on another transparent background just to keep the nodes a little bit more organized like this. So I have this, and it merges on top of this. Again, this is how it starts. We have a transparent background, then we have this composition over here, and we have everything over here and everything over here. So the first animation starts at frame 0, the second one starts at frame 2, then frame 4, frame 8, frame 12, frame 14, frame 18, 20. So all of them are offset by 2 to 4 frames. It's not specifically the exact amount of frames between all of them, but it's between 2 and 4. Then we have a drop shadow under everything, and we have this cool circle under. So how did I create the circle? If I go inside here, you can see I have the first background, which is basically just a transparent background. Then I have this ellipse which goes into black background. I have another ellipse which is softened and inverted as well, which goes into this blue background over here, deep blue background. It goes into this merge node, and the merge operator is set, it's changed from over to eta, and everything gets cropped over here like this. Then I repeat this one more time with a white background just like this, which is a little bit less soft. After that, I have a transform node which basically just decreases the size significantly. Then I have a dream glow after. This is an external plugin. It looks amazing, and this is why I use it. I prefer it normal glow because it just looks so much better. As you can see right over here, this is what the normal glow looks like, and yeah, you can just see the difference in the quality. If you want, you can just search online for dream glow. You're going to find it out. Then I have it placed over, and I changed the operator from over to under, so it's under this image over here. Then I have the first transform node, then I have the camera movement, and this is the entire animation. So after this, everything just transitions smoothly into the next animation, which is the YouTube logo, a counter text, and a lot of elements on the sides. So this is how it looks inside the Fusion. Again, everything starts at a transparent background. After that, I have 2 circles. I actually have 3 circles, but I have the first one turned off because I don't really need it. Then I have all of these icons over here. After that, I have the YouTube logo with the text, and then 2 gradients on the sides to give this a little bit more depth and complexity. Okay, so one thing that I want to teach you is watch what's going to happen if I turn this down. So the main animation is just the YouTube logo with the text on top. So I could have just left it like this, but I use all of these other elements to just give the animation much more depth, much more detail, and to just make it look much better. So all of these elements serve the purpose of giving more detail to the animation. Okay, so how did I actually create this? So I have this white background which is masked by an ellipse, where I turned down the solid and increased the border width just a little bit. And I have this copy and pasted 3 times, but every single time the circle gets bigger and bigger, and immerse everything right over here. Then I have an ellipse mask which with a very soft edge, and I mask all of these 3 together, so on the last layers it gets a little bit more transparent, as you can see. Then I have this icon right over here, which then it goes into blue gradient background. After that, we have this transparent background right over here, and this icon goes 4 times into 4 different merges, and I modify the position of these icons from the merges and the angles as well, so they end up being on the borders of the circles. After this, I have a transform node where I slowly change the angle of the icons to make it look like it's rotating. After that, I have a blur node to give it a little bit more blur and to decrease the focus from the icons and to leave it more to the center. After that, I have a color corrector node where I decrease the saturation to also decrease the focus from them, and I merge them on top, and it looks like this until now. After that, I have this cool icon over here. So I have the media in, which is the logo of YouTube. I placed it on top of a transparent background, changed the resolution from 1:1 to 16:9, as you can see right over here. And then I have a shader group over here, and what I have inside, I have 3 plugins. The first one gives it a subtle inner shadow, which is not very visible. Then it gives a subtle inner glow, which is this edge right over here. And then I have a drop shadow. I'm going to leave a link to the pack of the plugin in the description so you can find and check it out. And then we have this other transparent background and it goes on top of it. And then we have this text counter on top as well. And this is what we have, representing a number of leads and this going up. For the text counter, I actually have a custom preset created by myself, which is following the exact same principle that I had in the first animation, but it's just made a little bit more custom. So I will make sure to add this in the description so you can find it out and to use it for yourself. After that, I merge this on top like this, and then we have these 2 gradients once again, and then we place them on the corners of the screen just like this to create this cool gradient effect. And then we merge this over our main composition, and I actually did flip this around, so we just for preference. And at the end, and last but not least, we have the camera movement, which is this zoom out just like this. So as you can see right over here, we have this cool zoom out transition which blends the first animation perfectly into the second one. So what we have in the first one, we have this zoom out, starts slow and gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And then we have this other zoom out, which is at the start this time, and now it starts the other way around. So it starts fast and then it gets slower and slower and slower and slower. This is how it looks like once again. One tip to create this cool transition is you want to have out very subtle. You don't want to have it way too extreme, because if you have it way too extreme, it's not going to match. So as you can see, it goes from 1, the size 1, to almost 0.9, and on the other one starts from 1.1 and it goes to 1 basically. So now the effects. So what I basically did, I dragged an adjustment clip and I went inside and added all of these effects. And what happened, everything that's under this adjustment clip will be affected by those effects, as you can see right over here. So if I go inside the fusion of this adjustment clip, these are all the effects that we have. First we have the media in, and then we have a vignette, which I changed the settings from this to this, make it very subtle and just to draw more focus to the set. Then we have a defocus node, which is basically just a blur, and I mask this out with an inverted ellipse and a very strong soft edge. This way the edge is more blurred and the center is very clear, so we draw focus into the center of the screen. After that, I have this cool grain overlay which I found on Pixels. I'm going to also link this into the description, and I masked it with another inverted ellipse, so we have more on the edges and less in the middle. On the merge node right over here, I changed the apply mode normal, so it does not cover the entire screen, it gets transparent in the dark spots. After that, I have a prism blur node which adds this subtle chromatic aberration effect over here. The default settings, it looks like this. This is what it looks like in the default settings, and this is what it looks like with the settings I use. Also, what you want to go to settings and you want to turn down every single channel besides the red one. After this, I have this cool light ray effect which you see right over here. So how I created this, I have this. So in order to create this, you want to press Alt on your keyboard and to press on the line of the node tree, and you're going to create a joint just like this. After this joint, you want to add a luma keyer right over here and connect this to the luma keyer node. This will only pick up only the lightest areas of your visual right over here. So it's going to look like this. I have the specific settings right over here. Then this goes into a directional blur, which is basically a blur that goes in a specific direction. I changed the angle to 90 degrees and the blur strength to almost maximum and the blur strength to 1. And then this goes into blur node, which gives it a little bit of blur, decreasing the sharpness. This is the difference that it makes. And then we merge this on top of what we had before, just like this. And we create this cool. Now we have one more layer on top, which is a glow. This glow is also a plugin, and I use it because it gives me a very good result. So right over here, I have a circle comparing all of the glow. So this is the glow that I use for my compositions. This is how it looks and the result that I get from it. And this is what it looks when I change its properties. If I compare this to an adjustment layer with the normal glow, this is what. So this is the normal glow. This is the glow that I use. As you can see, it looks much better, and this is why I use it. This is what the soft glow uses, and this is what got the custom glow or not. So if you don't have this plugin, what you can do, you can add an adjustment layer to go inside the Fusion and add 3 glow layers in a row. The first layer has the size to 50, the glow to 0.6 and the blend to 0.1. The second glow has the size to 40, the glow to 0.5 and the blend to 1. And the third layer has the glow to 10, the glow size to 10, the glow to 0.5 and the blend to 0.1, and it creates a very similar effect. This is the custom plugin. This is what I created with 3 layers. It does indeed look very similar. So if I drag this over to compare them between each other, this is what the plugin that I use looks like. This is what the normal glow looks like. This is the glow that we just created with 3 layers looks like. So it's very similar to this one, but it's also not as high quality. One more thing that you want to do, you want to go to every single glow and change the apply mode to threshold, because if you change it to normal, you also pick up the black and it's going to make it glow like this and does not look as good. So change all of this to threshold. Okay, so these are the secrets that we just covered once again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of this, subscribe to the channel and see you in the next one.